Welcome to Candidate Conversation, your community, your vote, where we bring voters face to face with candidates seeking to represent them and shape the future of our communities. I am Habib Rahman and joined by my co-host, Mitra Kalita.
Hi, Habib. Thank you for having me.
Right. Just to let everybody know, this election interviews, this series actually that you have been watching, is co-produced by Epicenter NY and TBN24. Today, we are joined by Assemblymember Stephen Raga, and you're going to see him in a second. You're seeing him now. He's a Democratic candidate for New York State Senate, representing Western Queens. Born and raised in Queens, Stephen made history into 2022 as the first Filipino American for the first Southeast Asian elected to be the New York State Legislature. Throughout his career, he has worked as a community organizer, nonprofit leader, and advocated on issues including affordable housing, education, healthcare, workers' rights, and immigrant communities. Currently serving in his New York State Assembly, he is now seeking to bring that experience to a state Senate, New York State Senate, that is, as he campaigns on affordability, infrastructure, improvement, and public services, and also economic opportunities for working families. Assemblymember Stephen Raga, welcome.
Happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward for the conversation.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a very candid and open conversation. As people want to know what you're doing, what you're up to. It's a challenging environment as it is throughout the country. I mean, it's polarization all over the places. We have administration at the federal level, causing all sorts of chaos and stuff like that, in my opinion, and
there are facts, though. I think that's a fact.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
okay.
Chaos and uncertainty.
I only saw you're my friend. So, I mean, either way you look at it, it's really chaotic. There's one way to, you have tariff one day and then the next day you don't have tariff.
Yes.
You have a peace deal done with Iran one day, and we're having very good progress, and the next day, the bombing each other.
Absolutely.
Right? The European allies one day, and the next day, I'm imposing 20% tariff on everybody. Pulling out, soldiers from Germany. I don't know what the hell is going on. ICE is all over the places, and people are threatened.
It's not stuff.
Innocent people are getting killed. I'm talking about Minnesota, and San Diego, and all these things. So I'll let you start, and then we can go from there.
I think Habib brings up a good point, but I always love to hear from electeds if you could connect your own background to public service. So, Assemblymember Raga, if we could just begin with your origin story, right? You mentioned you're from Queens.
Yeah.
I'm assuming from a pretty close to where we are right now.
Could walk over.
Okay, This is your home turf.
It's so true. It's so true. I wasn't sure about that. When I was like, oh my God, it's right next to us.
Yes.
This is your home turf. We're in Woodside, Queens, for those of you who
Although you were referencing another Queens elected official.
Oh, that's
causing a little chaos.
Yeah.
And not just around the country, but even locally, even like you mentioned, the Knicks are winning one day, then he comes into Manhattan, and then we start losing. But I think that it's amazing to be here. Wonderful to join you guys. And this is a community I care very much about. Having lived here, my family moved and immigrated here back in the 70s. And back when I had to live in the Philippines for a few years, and my father was waiting for his citizenship. When he came here, me and my parents, we lived here in Woodside for 1 full year. And then my father passed away unexpectedly. We couldn't afford the healthcare he needed, and so our family could not be whole. And that's one of the priority issues I have in my assembly office, but also in my Senate race. I don't want any family, especially an immigrant family in Western Queens, have to decide whether they can keep their family whole or pay rent or medication or any of that. And so when I say one of my priorities is healthcare for everyone, universal healthcare, it's not just during a campaign. I experienced it. It shaped how I view government, the responsibility of government. And that's why my main campaign, or one of the main campaigns we have here, is to pass the New York Health Act in the New York Senate so that universal health care is a law of the land.
How old were you when your father passed?
I was 7.
Oh, you were so young.
Yes,
okay.
yes,
okay.
yes.
And
So single immigrant mom
right,
raising me.
Yeah. No, instantly I'm getting a picture of your upbringing.
It's 7 years old. It's like it's 7 years old. You're not toddler, but you have no capacity to do anything. Yep. You're not in control of anything.
Correct.
And with single mother and stuff like that, it's difficult. And you were talking about the healthcare and how it caused issues. I mean, we all know that. At the federal level, it's disgrace nowadays. If you look at it, June 3rd, they have this new law went into effect that you need to work to get SNAP.
To get SNAP benefits, you have to work 20 hours a week, or
like 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month, or $215, $17.50 per week at least. And you have to be 18 and 65. It used to be 55. Can you imagine this?
It sounds like you're transitioning us to affordability, Habib.
Well, let's go there. Let's go there. Okay, so you have your personal experience, and we all have our personal experience. We go through things that tells us things should not have been this way. It doesn't have to be this way, right? Now, you often speak about making New Yorker more affordable, right? Let's start there.
Yeah.
Queens residents continue to struggle with rising rents. It's no secret to anyone. Property taxes, and every living cost you can imagine, right?
Yes.
What is specific legislation you would support in the Senate, New York State Senate, and how would it provide measurable relief within the next 2 years or so, if you were to discuss anything?
For sure. Number one, as a premise, I believe that all levels of government should be in alignment to support our communities. So yes, we will be fighting in the state Senate, but we want to make sure that the mayor, the city council is in alignment, so we're on the same page. We want to make sure our congressional members, our U.S. senators, our president is in alignment to the extent that we can to make sure that we're using our taxpayer money wisely and that working people, the middle class, folks who need it in our district get the support they need. And I know coming from an immigrant family, sometimes you pull yourself from the bootstraps, you're making your way, you're doing the American dream, working nonstop. But at the other end, this is where we pay our taxes. It has to go somewhere. And instead of giving these tax breaks to big corporations, big millionaires and billionaires, they get the money. It should be reinvested in our community. It could be reinvested within our nonprofits, our small businesses, and a big piece of the assembly that I have been championing is the Invest in Our New York campaign, where we were going to take the very ultra wealthy, the billionaires, the big corporations that get millions of tax breaks every year and increase what they give to New York. So that will generate revenue, long-standing revenue to pay for schools, to pay for a healthcare system, to pay for our nonprofits, to pay for community media, anything that we can use to make sure New Yorkers get what they get.
I like the idea of paying for community media. You're the first elected to come on and talk about that.
We have been talking about it. We get no love. We get no love when it comes. But I would like to hear that more and more. Honestly, it just it rings a lot of bells in my ear. But to be honest with you, it's big medias. If you look at it, CNN, Fox, ABC, CNN, they're all they don't work for people. They have their own agendas and stuff like that. Independent medias like us.
People literally call us and ask for.
We work.
I mean, you know this. It's
more trust.
It's more trust.
Right?
It's built on trust.
And not only that, we trust among ourselves. There's a trust among ourselves. People trust us.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about this more. But please go on.
Yeah. So I was trying to kind of get a sense of some of the work that you've done on the ground. You were head of, Woodside on the Move, right? You come from a background of being both on the ground and in a nonprofit. How have you taken that experience and related it to elected office?
For sure.
And then I would just say over the last few years, where we're talking about community media, another sector that really has been decimated, partly thanks to federal cuts, has been the nonprofit sector. And so I just wonder if you see a role for the state to pick up where some of the federal government might have abandoned social services and the like.
100%. Not only does it have an opportunity to pick up, now it has a responsibility to pick up what the federal government has left off. My experience at Woods on the Move in making sure that we develop those relationships within our community in Western Queens, but also with our very diverse community, that's important. Because I remember when I was within a nonprofit space and working with our communities on the ground, elected officials, they didn't come and meet with us. Elected officials, maybe they came during election time and asked who to meet, but it wasn't proactive. And I always felt a way that our elected officials were forgetting us. Our elected officials were taking advantage of us. And I think in my 4 years or 3.5 years in the assembly, I always remembered that. That's why whether it's a holiday, I go to community events on Christmas, on my birthday, on New Year's Eve, on New Year's Day, because I want to make sure that my constituents know they have an elected official that will be there when they need it, will be there to support them. And I think it's important when you're making legislation, when you're making decisions on where does our taxpayer money go, you know where people are, and that's important when you're making policy decisions.
Yeah, I know. It's just many things that you talk about, affordabilities and stuff, your own personal life. I was just looking up at your personal life and stuff like that. You had to go from basement to basement at times when your father passed away, and difficult times and stuff like that. For many families, things haven't changed for many years. And if anything, it got worse, right? When it comes to rent, we know 60% of your income goes into paying rent.
Yes.
Right? It's a fact. It's just not a stat, right? So housing remains one of the biggest issues in Queens. I would say throughout the country, but we are concentrating our focus on Queens, right? So many residents want more affordable housing. We hear many promises, but we don't see no actions. We hear that, hey, if the Federal Reserve lowers the interest rate, then, it's going to become more affordable, but it will increase inflation. But what more people don't talk about is supply and demand, meaning you need to build, right? So while others, worry about the overdevelopment and neighborhood characters, how would you, or how do you balance the need for new housing with the concern of existing communities?
Yes, 100%. Number one, we want to make sure our communities don't get pushed out. Whether you are renting, whether you are a small landlord, we don't want to make it seem that you have to leave the community that you call home. Like you mentioned, when my father passed away, now I have a mom who had to work multiple shifts to keep food on the table, multiple shifts to keep up with rent. And still we felt the pain of what it feels like to be evicted multiple times. I don't want anyone to go through what we had to go through until she got a good union job and it stabilized our family. But either way, you're correct. How do we get a lot of these housing opportunities online? Some of from 2019, a lot of units still need to be put back online so it could lower the average cost of rent. But also, how can we reinvest in housing, whether it's housing vouchers, whether it's supporting our public housing like 𝗏𝗏, whether it's supporting other options like 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗕𝗏𝗏. Here in Woodside, we have the one 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗕𝗏𝗏 in the Big Six on Woodside, on Queens Boulevard, where 1,000 families live, very multicultural. How do we make sure we invest more in them? I'm so proud in the state assembly to bring in $30 million downstate to our 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗕𝗏𝗏 complexes, but then we need to make sure it goes into our communities. And that's where the fight is, and that's what we'll do in the state senate.
So you mentioned the assembly. You've been serving in the state assembly. I just wanted you to look back on your record and tell us about a promise that you've delivered on, and what is one area that you believe you could be doing better?
For sure. And I'm going to just pick one because I just talked about this with somebody last night. Again, like I mentioned, when I was in a nonprofit space, I didn't really trust politicians. I don't know to what extent I still do. It's just, I never felt that they were proactive with my communities. I felt very marginalized. But one of the first communities that supported my first run for assembly was our growing Nepali community. And I asked for three things to get three things. Would I hire a Nepalese speaking staffer? Would I support an increase in the after school program for their community? And would I support somebody for a political position, like a district leader or county committee or something like that? And immediately I fulfilled all three. I hired an Nepali speaking staffer. She's now my district director. We've supported the push for more after school program for a Nepali community. And also third, I stepped down from my district leader position to make way for another candidate, and it was a Nepali candidate, and now he's my district leader. So I'm so proud to go 3 for 3 on my specific promises to a particular community, and that's what I look to do for all communities.
What prompted the state senate bid? Did you see a different opportunity here? What was the impetus behind that?
For sure, it wasn't right away. I didn't make the decision immediately. Not at all. I'm in a district that already I've won 2 primaries and 2 generals in, and that have repeatedly elected me in. It's a district that I love because I was also the chief of staff for Brian Barnwell years ago. And so overall, I worked in the community in the district for about 8 years. I love it. It's a sense of pride that I get to work with such an amazing, diverse set of community leaders. But at the same time, I believe that in the Senate it offers us a larger opportunity to fight for the advocacies, to bring more budget back into our communities, and also serve a larger amount of our neighbors. And that's what we get when we're fighting for our neighbors now that is in Sunnyside, in Astoria, Glendale, and Ridgewood.
Got it. And just to follow up on that, we have had your opponent, 𝗂𝗏 𝗂𝗧, also on the program.
Last week.
Last week, I believe we had her. What would you say primarily differentiates you? Because so far, from a policy perspective
Very
and
similar.
from a progressive, a political stance,
Very
that you seem very aligned.
Yeah. I like her, nice person. I like her policy platform and the things she's fight for. I respect her for that. I think the things that would separate me in this race with anybody else is that a lot of the bills that I aim to champion and co-sponsor in the state Senate, I already do in the Assembly. So it's not vote for me because I'm going to get on those bills. I'm already on those bills. So please support me now. Also, it takes time. And you know this as working in the community, and especially in community media or community organizations, it takes time to really build that trust and relationships to bring any advocacy forward. And I think with my relationship as an executive director of 𝗓𝗏 on the community board for almost a decade, working in a few nonprofit organizations, sitting the board of Filipino American Youth for Progress, for Western Queens Community Land Trust, from Queens Pride. I've had decades of experience in this neighborhood and know it to every street corner. And I think that helps when you're making decisions so far away in Albany on behalf of all our neighbors.
No, you were talking about the Nepalese, and they wanted assurance to so that they feel they're included within your office, so, and therefore in the community, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at Sunnyside nowadays and Jackson Heights, right? So you see, we had some issues with the Jackson Heights where I think 𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗏 𝗏𝗏, which well, had done some good work. To clean up a little bit, organize a little bit, and the businesses are doing well. And we see similar kind of thing in the Sunnyside, differently. Because you have, nowadays you have the Paris baguette there.
Oh, sure.
I like it. I didn't think it was going to do well, but it's doing well. You have those.
It's pretty packed. I saw it. There,
So do you have any small business plans for your, this part of this community that you can, can you share something with us?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, small businesses in our neighborhood have been the cornerstone of all our communities, but especially, we can't forget, right during COVID. In our neighborhood, we were in the epicenter of COVID, not just in the city, but the country. And so the support we continue to give to our small businesses is crucial. I talk to small business owners every day. I talk to like the chambers of commerce and Sunnyside Shines. And a lot what they feel is that the support that's given is kind of being taken away. And if they have an issue with government, they don't know who to go to until it's time to pay a fine. And then that's the only communication they're getting. So I think we have a multi-step plan. In number one, we have to work closely with the chambers of commerce, with these organized business leaders, and say that we're here if you need if there's any financial opportunities on the city and the state and the federal level, and there's B, if there's anything proactive, you could reach out to us to let us know. You could do it immediately, and that's what happens when you have developed relationships for years in the community.
So on 47th and Sunnyside, not Sunnyside, 47th and Queens Boulevard, there was a good restaurant. It's called Mangal Kebab. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it. It's Persian or Afghani.
It's not the Turkish place?
It could be Turkish. Could be Turkish.
Okay.
I used to love their food.
Yeah.
But after the COVID, they went out of the business.
Yeah. I think it might have been Turkish because I went years ago. I think that's right.
Turkish. Because he was talking about COVID, it just reminded me.
Well, I'm glad this is the benefit of being in Habib's backyard. Like, he really knows.
I do go to places.
Speaking of being close to the ground, in preparation for these interviews, we have consulted both our communities as well as different organizations. Sure. And we talked to the Latino Dems for New York City. And one question that arose is public safety remains a top concern for many New Yorkers. How do you respond to residents who feel both crime and quality of life issues have increased? And what policies would you advocate to improve safety while maintaining trust between law enforcement and communities?
Thanks. That's an important question. And I think sometimes we get into that separation into two buckets between quality of life and public safety. Public safety is quality of life as well. You don't have a high quality of life if you can't walk down the street feeling scared from law enforcement, from however you look like. And I've actually seen that, or I've heard about, I've worked with families going through that, especially recently with ICE. We've seen that in Elmhurst, in Woodside, and in Jackson Heights, where you have family members taken. We can't put that out there, for individual cases because of privacy. But then, the kids are scared to go outside. The grandmothers are scared to go get the mail. And so that piece is there to protect our neighbors. But then I guess the crux of the question is that you have a place maybe like Diversity Plaza or on Roosevelt, where there has been a history of maybe crime, violent or non-violent. But either way, people are just trying to get to the 74th Street train station or 69th Street, and you don't want to see something.
It might not be crime. It might be a perception of being unsafe because perhaps, I do, you have two daughters who are walking in the subway and there's emotionally disturbed people around or people who might be using drugs but not crime necessarily, but a perception of,
create the menace.
I'm not quite feel. So
I think there's recently, and I think around Jackson Heights is a really good example. It's communities that have been under-resourced, under-invested in. And so there are many, and now we have a big immigrant community there. To what extent are they being heard? Because this is not a new issue. This didn't happen this month or this year. This has been growing for a number of years with folks not addressing it properly. And I think recently, while we're working with, for instance, Queens Economic Development Corporation, who now has staff there allocated at Diversity Plaza to make sure that it is being worked on, not just the safety issues, but also quality of life issues. And while we're investing more of our public funds into it, we have to make sure we're working with them. We're working with the local precincts. We're working with the city council on the local level, because in the end of the day, this is also what we see in quality of life is on the city level to the extent that it is. And we have to make sure we're working with the city council and the mayor's office to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important element about safety. In this country, you have this punishment and no rehabilitation. You've done something, go behind the bars, spend your time, come out, no training, no nothing.
Yeah, it's punitive.
It becomes a revolving door because that person comes out and does what? How is he going to support it? There's no support system. But I'm going to go back to your small business issue once again. Any community to thrive, you have to have good business.
Yes.
And the flow of transition. money, and it will make it vibrant.
Yes.
You will see that reflection in education, in tranquility, in life, real life, right?
Yeah.
So small business are the backbone of the many Queens neighborhood. There's no question about it. I think any neighborhood, right? So yet many business owners, they say that government regulations, state regulations or city regulations, inflation, labor costs are making it difficult for them to survive or to stay afloat in a business. What would you do and how would you work in Albany to help the small business to grow and create more jobs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, that's been a priority that we've had in the budget. And we want to make sure that when we go through the committees for the committees on small businesses throughout the state, that we're properly funding it to the extent that goes statewide, number one, but two, it goes in our communities because it's a two-step process. We don't want to pass it and it goes to Midtown Manhattan.
Right.
We don't want to pass it and it goes to Eastern Queens, or maybe we do, but it depends what community. We want to make sure it goes into communities that we are representing as elected officials. And so when that happens and we're in alignment with that's how we get to Jackson Heights, Sunnyside, Woodside, Elmhurst. And that's what we'll be doing in the state senate. And to your last point about how we're working with the small business, another piece is it's intersection of public safety and also of community quality of life. And a big part of that is the community organization ACE. So we're work that cleans up the neighborhood with just picking up the garbage or cleaning graffiti or even power washing the streets. And we're working with small businesses, especially on Roosevelt and Woodside Avenue and Grand Avenue, on identifying it. And ACE is an organization that takes formerly incarcerated individuals, trains them, and gives them an opportunity to work themselves back into a career. So all of this is circular. We just have to make sure we have the right partners and trust in that process.
I spoke to many business owners in that area, and you just mentioned the Commerce
Chamber?
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
They never heard of it.
Really?
I'm not going to say everybody. So that tells you, the access to the resources are not as much, well informed.
Yes.
Right. So
even if it's there,
it's not there.
Well, we also have a lot of different organizations. Like there's the Business Improvement District, there's the Economic Development Corporation, there's the Chamber of Commerce, there's the local chamber. I mean, it can also. I say this as a business owner. Well, I'd say as a business owner, there are a lot of organizations vying for your time sometimes. So I do want to make sure we get to this. I know. You do tell me about it. You do tell me about it. I want to make sure we get to the subway. I know we're coming close to time, but both from a overall public transit question about the reliability, accessibility, and funding, which the state government is the ultimate arbiter of the New York City subway system. We cannot say that enough times because I don't think that the average New Yorker actually knows this. So I want to make sure we have a state elected before us. What's your track record there? And what are some of the improvements as a state senator that you would like to make?
100%. Thanks for bringing up the MTA and specifically this transportation. It's funny because most of the times when constituents come to me, their issues are primarily outside the scope of a state elected. It's city. It's on the ground, something the city council, or it's international and national where you talk to your congressman or senator. But MTA, that's within our responsibility for sure. And I think, number one, what the state primarily does is make sure that we fund these construction, we fund the MTA, we fund our bus routes. But at the same time, where is that money going? We're always throwing money at the MTA. Every year and all we're having is more delays, increased construction. I've had so many complaints to our assembly office on figuring out the 7 train, figuring out the R train, on which stops are going where. And me, I'm on the 7 train on 69th Street. And half the time, you don't know if the train is going west or east or what's there. And I think for the most part, what we need to do with that is work with our local community, work with our community boards, work with our small business owners and associations to together be in alignment and telling the MTA why these stations need to be prioritized, what is the long-term and short-term investment, and also work hand in hand with the city, because we have to do one part with the city, which is the DOT. So the Department of Transportation for the city that's where our trains go through. That's where our trains are sit at the top. That's where our bus lanes are weaving in and out. And so we also have to make sure we're in alignment with DOT and the city.
We are almost towards the end of the show, and I wish we had more time. But if you were to point out a few things of your accomplishments that actually really impacted positively in this area, that's one thing. The other one is, after that, if you were to tell your voter why would they vote you and not the other guy or the person,
other women.
Thank you. So that's the thing. And then if you could tell them when is the vote and when does start the early voting and when it ends, and how do
people vote for you?
Got it. Well, there's a few things I'm proud of, but locally, some things that I've seen a dramatic change in the last few years. Number one, every year that I have been in office, we passed $30 million for the Asian American community and the nonprofit organizations. So I've seen it directly go into South Asian, Southeast Asian, and East Asian nonprofit in the district, where previously they didn't even know it was available. Previously, they were not invested in. Previously, they had to get private funds from their communities with a slow moving of it forward. So it's wonderful to see organizations get that funding they need. Secondly, I've received and worked with the governor in bringing in $28.5 million into Elmhurst Hospital. So now that they have a PICU for newborns, now they have a reinvestment in the Women's Health Pavilion in Elmhurst Hospital, so our communities can get the health care they need. I think what separates me from any other of the candidates, or actually in any race, is the belief in a particular advocacy. That's wonderful. You need to do that. But being an elected official, you're going to pass laws. That's part of the job. You have to do it. You're passing the bill anyway. Congratulations. That's what you have to do. Every year you pass a bill. It's not a big coup. But what you also have to do is be on the ground, know the community, because if you don't, your community is not going to know where to go to when they need help. You gave a great example. There's an organization and it's there, it's in front of people's faces, and yet don't know it's there. Yeah. So you have to have those roots on the ground, and that's what I give. My family has been here for decades. I have worked my whole life, or my whole adult life here in Western Queens and in this district. And lastly, I mean, if you want a candidate that is not just says they'll fight for our community, but has already been doing that, supporting it in policy, but also in budget. Hopefully I could receive and earn your support on June 23rd. That's when the election is. Early voting actually is on the 13th, so it's coming up sooner.
That's right, June 13th through 21st. I do want to ask you just one last question. Habib just gestured and said you could get this in. One of your previous colleagues in the assembly is, of course, our current mayor, 𝗂𝗓𝗏 Mamdani.
That's right.
I've seen photos of you together. You're laughing. You're collegial. He's endorsed your opponent.
He is.
How does that feel? How is that landing? What becomes of kind of your working relationship with the city, the federal government? Like, how do you go on from that? You go on. You seem fine with it.
No big deal for me. I worked with the guy for 3 years on a lot of our advocacies. We worked in the same advocacies together, not because I wanted to work with him directly or he wanted to work with me directly. It's because we both agreed that New York City needed fast and free buses. We both agreed that we need to fix the MTA. We both agreed we need to tax to all the ultra wealthy. We are in alignment in those set of values, and so we can't help but be in the same space moving forward, no matter what happens. And to quote a very wise man who once said that the day of endorsements, deciding elections, it's over. The people decide elections. That wise man was 𝗂𝗏 Mamdani last year, 2025. So I'm happy in his success as mayor and looking forward to working with him as a state senator.
So Mitra and I have to say goodbye to you, and we have to
We
end
say
the
see
show.
you later.
See you later.
Right.
And then, we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
I hope it works out well for you, because you have been working for the city for some time now, and you have proven some track records. So we wish you all the best. And I will tell the viewers, regardless of who you decide to vote, it's up to you. But please do go.
That's right.
Starting June 13th, it's early vote, and June 23rd is the last day of voting. Don't wait till the last moment. It's your right. Exercise it. And this is how you take part in the city, in the state, in the country, and exercise your right. You pick the person that you think deserves your attention. And you can go to him when you need him, saying, hey, we elected you. We need your help. And that's how it works. With that, we are ending today's episode. See you in the next one. Good night.